Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you, featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
I'm Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. Today, my guest is Halie Loren. You know, the first thing you notice is that voice. She's just gorgeous, and she's graceful and somehow earthy and ethereal all at once. It's an instrument that she has that is perfectly matched to her songwriting talents of the artist who channels it, Halie Loren.
Hello.
Well, you know, it's great to have you on my show, Halie, because, you know, your music conveys the wonders of the invisible world, wounded defiance, stubborn love, hard-earned hopefulness. I want you to tell my audience all about that.
Well, where to start? I'll start with thank you for having me on your show. It's really my pleasure. But as far as all of the other things, you know, music for me is a channel of communication unlike any other. You know, you're able to really communicate the soul through music, and I think that is, you know, one of the primary things that people love so much about music, listening to it and creating it. And so, you know, it's really nice to be able to do something in this life that really delves into the depths of the human experience in that way, and I feel really blessed to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. You know, Halie, I always tell my audience when we have somebody who is a singer or a composer or you name it, anybody in the arts field, I say to them, when you listen to music, doesn't it transform you in ways you can't even describe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Both as a listener and as a creator of music, I think that is one of its most precious gifts to people. So often, you know, I immerse myself in a song as a singer, and it literally becomes this sort of movie that's being played out in my mind that I'm a part of, even if I didn't write the song, even if I don't necessarily know the situation under which the composer was, you know, writing it or what they were thinking about. I can put myself in it. And I think as a listener, that also is one of the greatest things to be able to do, is to hear somebody communicate something and to feel it really channel into something understandable in your own experience, in your own life, and to kind of create this universality of language. And really cool.
You know, Halie, you just brought something up that is very, very profound in many ways, and that is that it really crosses or forges bonds with diverse audiences, music. I mean, I've talked to so many artists about what happens when there is war between different countries and people are at odds, and then suddenly somebody starts a theater and or creates music, and then all of a sudden there's peace. The music is universal, and somehow, again, it really creates an environment of peace. Don't you agree?
Mm-hmm. I absolutely agree. Music for world peace, yay! I can definitely get behind that. But I think it does. It one of the things that you know is in common with any place that you go in the world is that music is loved. Music is a significant part of culture, a significant part of what makes life beautiful. And it infuses meaning into situations, even more than the situation might have had without the music. And so I think what it does is it makes borders, it makes, you know, boundaries between one culture or one person and another evaporate just enough, you know, to where people can really experience the humanity of one another's selves and cultures. And I mean, what I love about listening to music that I don't necessarily, you know, understand, like music from other countries, music from languages that I don't speak, is that the thing that comes across is the emotion and the humanity of it. And how can one help but, you know, be moved by that, even when you might not relate on so many other levels? You can relate to that.
Now, tell our audience, Halie, what has been your experience, and how did it feel to be in certain countries where you had that impact on people, where they suddenly just wanted to listen to your music and experience you?
Mm-hmm. Well, it always is pleasantly surprising every time, even though I've traveled quite a bit over the last few years now around the world playing my music. The ways in which it connects with people, the things that people share with me about what the music means to them, has always been a source of, I just come away feeling totally in awe of that moment and knowing what the ripple effect of music really can be, including the music that I make. It's so powerful. And what it really proves to me is that I'm doing something that is really worth doing with my life. I feel like I'm doing something that makes not only me happy, but adds some kind of joy or depth of experience to other people across the world. And gosh, what an honor.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. I'm sure. Now let's talk about your jazz. You are jazz. Sure. You're a jazz singer, and you've written many songs. Or actually, I'm not sure you write the songs, but you certainly sing them, and you sing them in a way that turns people on. Now let's talk about why jazz.
Well, for me, jazz has been a long-standing passion of mine. When I was very young, growing up in Alaska, we had pretty limited contact with a lot of pop culture. I didn't have any radio stations to listen to except one public radio station, and I played mostly jazz and blues and roots music. And at home, my mother was and still is, a very big fan of jazz music, in addition to a lot of other things. So I was actually exposed to, some kinds of music that might have been less typical of kids my age to listen to on a daily basis from a very young age. And so I learned from I learned to love the music of Nat King Cole, who's still one of my absolute favorites, and Etta James and Ella Fitzgerald and Joni Mitchell and John Denver and a lot of people from a lot of different eras, but a lot of things that those writers and those musicians have in common is a real, it's very authentic and very well crafted music. And so I became a fan of that particular quality from a really young age, I think, without even knowing it at the time. And as I grew as a musician, and I've done all kinds of music, I still sing. I still like to sing a lot of different styles of music in what I do, and even in what I write, the songs that I write. The one style that I think has been the most impactful for me has been jazz music.
Yeah. Now, it's very interesting to me that there are artists like you, like Lady Gaga, and various other people who, while they're young, they're very interested in, and the music that they sing is not only this rock and hip-hop and all of the other music that seems to be the music of the young, but they look at Lady Gaga. She sings with Tony Bennett, and Tony Bennett's probably in his 80s, and they sing some of the standards like Cole Porter songs and various other things. So my question to you is, if you had a choice of singing some of those really jazzy, old-fashioned, you said Etta James and perhaps others, would you choose to sing some of those old songs as opposed to singing the very new hip-hop and you name it?
Well, I spent most of my musical life singing songs from the American Songbook. I have hundreds of them in my repertoire. I love so many of them. The ones I love the most are the ones that I feel most connected to at a specific time in my life. But I really love infusing my music with things that are new and exciting to me, but also keeping things feeling authentic for me, and so much of what I'm steeped in is jazz and more of a, I guess, retro music influence. And so, for me, that's always what I come back to. That's my touchstone. But that doesn't necessarily, mean that I would exclude all of the other styles that you're talking about from having any influence over me. But it's what I wrap myself up in at the end of the day. It's my go-to love.
Yeah. It also seems that your music is played in Asia a lot, and they really seem to love you. I mean, you wrote They Ought to Write a Song, and it won the National Independent Music Award for the Best Jazz Album, which was distributed in Asia. So what is it about Japan or the Japanese that they loved your music so much?
Well, I don't know entirely, of course. All I know is that it came as a great surprise to me back in 2000. I believe I released that album in 2008, and then in 2009, I discovered that my music was being distributed from American distributor to Japan and selling really well, like climbing up the charts, and I had no idea where it was coming from. I think maybe it was partly because of the fact that I did win an award for the album, that it might have caught the attention of somebody, but they thought, oh, well, maybe it would do great in this marketplace, and I think they were right. But ever since then, it's just been a crazy ride. I got interest from several different labels after that point, and I ended up signing a distribution deal with JBC Victor. And they've done a great job with, getting the word out about the following 7 albums that I've put out there. And I don't know, when I travel to Japan, it becomes more clear to me in terms of the musical environment there. It really is a really wonderful place for what I do, because there are a lot of jazz fans, and a lot of jazz fans really love the sounds of a lot of the classic jazz singers, the singers of the 40s and 50s and 60s. And so, I mean, there's music fans for all kinds of music, of course, but as far as finding an audience, I think, I was lucky enough to have an audience find me right away, and they've been really they've really stuck by me ever since, and it's just grown from there. And it's been this really organic, wonderful fan building process, and touring there a lot is also helpful. I've been there 7 times.
7 times.
Yeah.
Konnichiwa. So, and I, believe it or not, I'm sure our audience would be very bored listening to me, but I actually sang in Japanese, and
oh, you did?
I sure did, and I'll give you a little taste of my music in a moment, but would you do me a favor? Would you give us kind of just a little taste? I always ask some of my singers who are my guests to give us a little sound, a little taste of what they love. So can you just, without a band, could you just sing a little song?
Sing the whole song? Or just
No, just a little bit of it. We don't have time for anything that long. But anyway, give us just kind of a feeling for what Halie Loren's music sounds like.
Oh, okay. I can do my best. It's only 10 a.m. here.
Oh, dear. Okay.
All right. Sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams that leave our worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever they be, dream a little dream of me. something like that.
That is pretty. There's something very ironic about that song for me because, interestingly enough, I'm watching a series on television on Netflix, and that's the music that they have in the background. Absolutely, yes.
Oh my goodness! Well, see, right. I was reading the airwaves somehow.
Yeah, I think you were. Now here I'll give you something in Japanese, okay? Just a tiny bit, and if the audience thinks I'm a little insane, that's okay. I don't care because the music absolutely turns me on, whether it is.
Go for it.
Okay, so here we go. Surete nikete yo suite oide yo yugure no ame ga furu yagiri no watashi. That's what I'm going to give you right now. So
nice.
Thank you.
What's that song?
Well, it's the story of a couple, and the man is in a boat, and he's leaving, and he's asking his girlfriend or his wife, I don't know, whether she would go with him. And he's pleading, and he's saying, please come with me. And that's what that's all about. Yeah. So I'm sure I'm the first host of a radio show who actually sang a song, but nevertheless.
This is true. This is actually true. First for me.
I bet. Well, we're you could tell all your friends and people that they ought to hire me to sing in Japanese, but nevertheless.
That's right. That's right.
There you go. All right. Let's turn back to you. Some of the most meaningful things your fans have shared with you is what I want to know. What have they really told you that is maybe very interesting to you?
Yeah, there's been a lot of things. But some of the more memorable things that have happened have been things that have really, touched me deeply. Of course, I have people who have told me, you've really helped me get through some difficult times. I had a breakup, or I lost my job, or your music has really soothed my soul. But I've also gotten people telling me, who are like multi-generational fans of my music, their mothers or their fathers and themselves or them and their children are fans of the music. And I've had people tell me that their parents or loved ones have requested my music to be played at their deathbed. That just gets, oh my goodness, makes me tear up just thinking about that. That's been a real huge honor, to think about that being something that could help that transition in any way. I had a woman write to me in the aftermath of the Japanese earthquake and tsunami in 2011, and she wrote me an email several months later, and she noted that she wanted to just send me a note of thanks because she was at a shelter that had been set up in the region to house the people who were rendered homeless by the disaster in the Fukushima region. And she said they were playing my music over the community room loudspeaker every once in a while, or often, I can't remember what it was, but she said she would rock her baby to sleep, listening to the music in this strange place, and it made her feel safer. And it was like, that broke me. It broke me.
Yeah, sure.
And I still think about it, and I think that even if there was nothing else in this world that, inspired me to keep going, but there's plenty, of course. Stories like that, make me think, wow.
Yeah, sure.
This is what I should be doing.
Yeah. During that time of the tsunami and during the really horrendous experiences that people were facing, to think that they played music. Now we're going to just take a short break so our audience can listen to our commercial. We'll be back with you in just a second.
Rose Passion's beauty products are blooming. My name is Lady Suzette Freud, founder of Rose Passion Beauty Products, 100% organic and safe. Rose Passion is for all ages, women, men, young children, and babies. The perfect gift for the passionate rose in your life. A natural beauty secret from Earth-defying. Find me at rosepassionbeauty.com.
Now, you talked about growing up in Alaska, and not every guest that I interview comes from places like Alaska, but I mean, it's very far and very beautiful. But it's cold. But nevertheless, again, how did it shape you as an artist?
Well, Alaska has been more impactful than I think I realized. Of course, while I lived there, I grew up there, but I left when I was 13 years old. But one of the great things about Alaska that might not feel so great as a teenager is that it's relatively, it's relatively isolated, at least where I grew up, on an island. And I was really able to tap into my creativity and my imagination skills by living there. I spent most of my time outside playing and surrounded by nature. And all of those things really kind of just shaped me as an artist because I was able to kind of just play and experience the world in all of the splendor of this natural environment in this really raw way. And I realize now what a rare gift that was, that so few people get to experience that. It's their childhood. And, for me, it's really given me so much. I think it gave me a lot of practice being creative. It gave me a lot of just appreciation of simplicity and of creating something beautiful with nuances and not necessarily being really drawn to like a lot of flash or, it's really shaped my artistic style. And I also have a lot of, references in the songs that I write and the songs that I also am really drawn to that other people write. I have a lot of natural world references that inspire me in those choices.
Now, you talked about your parents just a little bit at the beginning of the show. How did they influence you?
Oh, hugely. Besides my mom's music taste certainly taking hold with me at a young age, they've been the most incredibly supportive parents I could probably have ever asked for. And of course, you don't ask for your parents. I just lucked out. But they are music lovers, and more importantly, they're supportive of me. And so when I, at a very young age, I started performing at age 10, and I became professional by age 14, all along the way, saying, oh, you should do it. Get out there, do your music, share your gift. And that's always been sort of the ethos of my family. And I can't tell you what a huge, huge impact that has had for me as an artist. And anybody who, has had both supportive parents or maybe the opposite about, their child pursuing what might be sort of a risky venture. Life as a creative person has no guarantees. There's no scaffolding. There's no like set path. Mm-hmm. And it can be really scary, and it can be unstable, but it also can be such a gift. And I just am so glad that my parents recognize that the latter and have been so supportive of me the whole time. Because mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, sure. And many parents they actually try to discourage their children from entering your field because it's so tough.
Yeah, exactly. It is, and I know it comes from a place of love, and it comes from a place of wanting the best for one's child. But there are some of us who, if we didn't do this, if we didn't follow our musical or creative paths, our lives would be very a very different and less joyful place.
Would you give some advice to young people who are interested in entering your field?
Absolutely. I mean, every path is very different, right? I have no stage advice that might work across the board. But I think, given what we've just been talking about with parental support or encouragement, I think, even if it might not exist in your immediate family, as an artist, find somebody who can be that champion, who can be a mentor, who understands what it is that you feel at your soul level you're needing to do. And, it is a community. You have to have that community, and so finding that, going out there and finding like minds, that's hugely important. Another thing is that took me a while, I think, to really settle into comfortably is making peace with yourself, who you are as an individual, and communicating that thing, that authenticity. And even if the audience that you think is out there isn't necessarily listening to what that thing is, it will find its audience. Because it's something that you have to offer the world that nobody else does.
Now, where do you often find inspiration for what you do?
I find inspiration in all kinds of places. I already mentioned nature is hugely inspiring to me. I love going out. I hike. I like to camp. I'm definitely, I find a lot of inspiration at the ocean. My real life, of course, has been quite an inspiration to me, both in good and bad ways. The beautiful, happy moments that I try to capture in a bottle as a song, as well as the tragedies, and those have been real sources of, writing songs about really difficult things, hard feelings, a lot of, sadness and loss has also been really cathartic for me, and really grown some deeper kinds of songs as I've gotten older. I also find inspiration in other people's stories, in movies, in the things that surround me. I'm an artist, and I guess part of what being an artist is reflecting the world that you're surrounded by.
Yeah. Do you also think that there's genetics? It kind of is part of this whole story that made you who you are. You said that your mother was interested or did sing, and they encouraged you. So there must be some sort of, I call it genetics.
I don't know. My mother. She would be so tickled that you said that. She's never considered herself a singer, but she used to sing with me when I was little. But more of what she, I think, has considered herself has been a really huge music fan, and so I think I think one thing I did garner from my parents was valuing music as a really important part of life. As far as genetics go, I do have distant family. I have, other generations of family members who have been musical for sure. I have a great grand uncle who is in the Smithsonian, I guess, actually, with his music. He was in the Ozark Mountains and was a somewhat famous fiddle player of the time, way back when. Yeah. And I have a lot of, musical family, but my immediate family, not so much. I didn't grow up in a family band. My dad plays the harmonica, but nobody plays an instrument, and it just sort of struck, and it was always obvious that I was, that singing was my thing. And even when I was very little, there were recordings of me at 3 years old just singing all the time, and wow. I just loved it. I just always found such joy in that. And
Yeah. So what are some of the other musical things you have up your sleeve? I mean, there must be a great many projects or other musical collaborations that you'll be part of. And also tell us about your plans for the future.
Sure. Well, Yeah, I have a lot of collaborations that I'm involved in at the moment. This fall alone, I'll be performing some shows with this wonderful jazz guitar trio called the New West Guitar Group here in Oregon, and they have a new album out now that I'm learning all these new songs that they've made these arrangements for that are really complex and interesting, and I'm really excited to do that. And they also arranged some of the songs that are from my new album, Butterfly Blue, which was really, really awesome of them. I am performing alongside a ballet here in Oregon called Ballet Fantastique. They're a fantastic original ballet troupe that create their own stories and choreography through ballet and have live music accompany them, and it's all kind of wrapped together. And so I get to be part of that in December for a run of shows that they're doing. And I, of course, am constantly writing songs for both myself, for my next project, whenever that might be available.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's
going to be a little bit more along my singer-songwriter roots, the next one. But in the meantime, I'm also in with an upstart band, a brand new project called Halie and the Moon, which is entirely different, entirely not jazz. It's kind of it's much more. It's hard to define. It's very. It's all original music, and it's very kind of ethereal pop singer-songwriter. It's an interesting fusion. So I've got a lot of irons in the fire right now, and a lot of things that are keeping me learning and keeping me really, interested as a creator. And it's just, there's never any shortage. I get to go to Italy too, which is really fun. I get to go to Sicily at the end of November for a run of shows with the Sicilian brass orchestra. So. Yeah, got a lot coming up.
Yeah, you sure do. And I'm very curious about what's the best part about touring. I mean, how could you not like going to Italy? But what's the best part of it, and the most difficult aspect of it too?
Yeah, well, some of the best aspects of touring, of course, are getting to see fabulous and beautiful places like Sicily and like Tokyo and like Hawaii or a lot of the other places. Eastern Canada, I was recently there. Oh, my goodness, so gorgeous. And meeting fans. I love being able to communicate face-to-face with the people who listen to my music. And there's no replacement for that one-on-one contact. I mean, I'm active on social media, so I talk to people that way as well, but it's just so different after a show, really getting to look someone in the eye. And I love just all of the different cultural experiences I get to have going from place to place. It really keeps life fresh and really reveals the world in a whole new way to me. The most difficult thing about touring, I think, is missing my family, to be honest. I know that's probably nothing new to people talking about what's hard about touring, but it's definitely a thing.
Sure.
I love my home. I live in a great place. Great part of the world, and I have wonderful, wonderful people that I love, and so that's always a struggle. And but it's so worth going out every so often to perform. Mm-hmm. But that, I have to be honest.
Yeah, of course. And so we're just about at the end of our show, and I'd like you to tell our audience about some of the music that's available to them and how they get it.
Absolutely. Well, of course, there's my website, which is halieloren.com, and I'm going to spell that because it might be an atypical spelling to some people. It's HALIELOREN.com, and of course I have my tour dates on there, as well as my web store, which you can find my music at for physical or MP3s. That's through Bandcamp, and then of course I'm on iTunes, I'm on Amazon, I'm at a lot of local record stores. for those cities who are still fortunate enough to have independent or otherwise, album, like record stores, CD stores. So, and if my music isn't there, then there's always just a request away. But, of course, I'm on Spotify and all kinds of other radio streaming services. And yeah, I love, hearing from people. So I'm on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube on all those places. So I'd love for people to stop by and say hi on those. Yeah.
Well, Halie Loren.
Sums it up.
That's a lot. So
a lot to keep track of.
That's right. So Halie Loren has been my guest on the Susan Brender Show, and she's been such a delight. I'd like to say thank you for being on my show, Halie Loren.
Thank you so much, Susan. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to The Susan Brender Show.